Boom, boom. I got this little rag that I put over the the camera so that when I cut in between clips, you don't you get black, right? Instead of like me for a second or whatever's on the screen for a second, and then I forgot to take it off. Like a dummy, but this is the last second live stream. My lights aren't even on. So that gives you an idea of how unprepared I am. But that's the way of the last second live stream. So, I just got through watching a part of a video that John Malin did a couple days ago, I guess, about page rates and stuff. And I thought it was very interesting. Because I guess he's been taking some crap for people not thinking he's paying enough for his indie projects or whatever. And I think he sort of gave everybody sort of a taste of what reality is out there for the independent market. And even for Marvel and DC, if those page rates are accurate, they're not great compared to what they were. So, what's the moral of the story? The moral of the story is, if you can get work in comics these days, I guess be thankful you can get it. And, you should take pride in your work, and you should get as much as you can, but maybe people need to temper expectations a bit. I don't know. That's why I'm doing it myself, because I don't have to pay someone else to do it and have them get mad at me for not paying them enough. Or as John said, have them flake out, which is usually the biggest crime that happens. You sometimes have people, and it wasn't my intent to do this live stream to, piggyback off of John's video, but people don't, a lot of times you'll see samples, and then people will actually get to, when the pressure gets on, they're actually doing the work that counts. Doesn't come out as good as the samples, or people don't meet deadlines, and that's another big hassle. So there's this weird, it's weird being on the other side of it, as we are now, as independent publishers, being not only, say, the creative person involved in the project, but also the publisher, right? So all these other and editor and everything else, and so all these other problems and situations that arise through editorial and production that we normally wouldn't have had to deal with in our careers earlier. We would just draw the pages, turn them in, or whatever. Now you got to deal with all that stuff. So all this stuff has to be a consideration. But anyway, there you go. So there's me kind of agreeing with John Malin, which you probably wouldn't see very often, but I did on this one. I thought he was right on the money. Okay, so let's just see who's here. Who's up late with me, especially if you guys are on the East Coast. Holy crap, it's almost 1 a.m. on a Thursday. What am I doing? Well, I'll tell you what I'm doing. Well, let me say hi to everybody first, and then I'll tell you what I'm doing here. Let's see. Midnight Atari Force Munchies. Hyper Potato. Jiminy Cricket says, Aaron, the Jack Show is on. Don't make us choose. Oh, is it really? Because I checked to see if anybody was streaming. I didn't see anybody streaming, so I thought I'd do this, but now it's on. So what am I going to do? You guys got to do what you got to do. It's past 9 p.m. You should be in bed. There's some truth to that. But again, there's a reason why I'm doing this. Are you sleep streaming? Where's Shelly, and why isn't she watching you? She's laying down in bed, actually. Blacklist Universe. Hey, Aaron, where are you? I'm where I'm always in, right here in my studio. That's, of course, Mike Miller. Don't follow John's advice, Aaron. He's cheap as heck. No, well, I understand his position. I do. That's true. Comic work is hard, and you'd better be able to deliver. Old Man says, I remember some artists saying the page rate was the same as it was 20 years ago, and that was with the big publishers. Yeah, let me tell you something. When I went from Marvel to DC back in, God, when was it? 12 years ago? 14 years ago? Maybe even 15 years ago now? I never got a raise. From that moment, that whatever they paid me, which I'll not reveal at this time, whatever they paid me at DC, I never got a raise in the 12 years that I worked there before everything fell apart. Hey, Stephen Ing is here. Hey, Stephen's a West Coaster, so it's not that late for him. Hey, Stephen, thanks for joining us. Nice to see you, or to see that you're here. Look at that. Shanth And Jetty just hit 1,000 subscribers. That's awesome for him. He's doing some really cool painted work, which is what I'm going to show you in a minute. Hopefully it's cool, considered cool painted work. Teflon Ron is here, and I just showed that. The Angry Gamer, June 10th, fingers crossed, can't wait. Yeah, me too. We are, remember, living in Joe Biden's America, so there are supply chain issues, there are paper shortages, there is a wrench that could be thrown in the works at any time, but I have made my, how shall we say, desires known quite fervently about getting this book printed in a timely fashion. And so they're doing everything they can to accommodate me, which I think is great. So I can't complain too much. So anyway, I'm sort of celebrating today. Normally I wouldn't do a live stream this late at night because I would have work to do and I got to get up tomorrow morning and blah, blah, blah. But today I finished the final piece of the Wraith of God puzzle. And of course, someone is texting me. What the heck? I'm telling you. You'd ask me why I'm not in bed. Why aren't they in bed? Why is my son texting me at 9:45? He has to get up and go to work tomorrow. Okay, so anyway. So the last piece of the Wraith of God puzzle was this print that everybody's going to get. It's a stretch goal print. And it wasn't the last stretch goal. The last stretch goal was the Ace of Spades playing card, which are all back from the printer, and they're all loaded up and ready to go as soon as the books get here. But this print, which I kept putting off and putting off and putting off because I obviously wanted to finish the book before I got sidetracked on another piece of art. But I finished it. And I said I was going to paint it, and I haven't painted in... The last painting I did was for Seattle, the Emerald City Comic-Con, what do they call it? The art book that they sell there that raises money for St. Jude's Children's Hospital. And but it's the program. Well, it's not a program book. It's just an art book, Emerald City Comic-Con art book that you contribute to for free. And the sales, they raise the money for the Children's Hospital. And that was pre-pandemic. So it was 4 years ago or more. And before that, it was 10 years before I'd painted anything. So I've done one painting in the last 14 years. And yet, for some dumb reason, I said, I'm going to paint this. And then I was like, I started going back and forth going, you know what? Maybe I shouldn't be painting this. Maybe I should just do it in pencil and ink and then color it in Photoshop and be done with it. But no, I'm good to my word. And plus, I needed to get back in to painting. So I know you say, Aaron, let's see it. Here it is. Now we're going to take a closer look at this over on the other camera so we can get in a little bit closer. Benjamin Lee helping me out. He's a Seattle guy or up in that area. That book is called Monsters and Dames from Emerald City Comic-Con. That is correct. I don't do sauce that high anymore, Benjamin. I try to stay away from it. That doesn't mean I won't do a good-looking hot chick or anything, but it's got to be within some certain parameters of good taste. Okay, let's switch cameras here and take a look at this baby. And I'll talk a little bit about what I did. I know a lot of you guys wanted me to do oh man, that's really hot. Those colors are really hot. That is like way more yellow than he actually is. Let me turn that off and see if that helps. Not really. Look how yellow this paper is, right? Oh, you know what? It's because of this dumb thing. Hang on. That helps a little. That's not bad. It's not perfect, but it ain't bad. And we'll take that right now. Ah, dang it. The light is reflecting horribly off this painting. Let me see if I can get this at the right angle. Okay, well, This is not a very accurate reproduction. I'm a little annoyed, to be honest with you. One of the problems you have, and one of the reasons people don't like to paint anymore in traditional methods is because when you scan it, you get reflective light like this, and the colors go all out of whack, and you end up with all sorts of issues in trying to get the color to look. Hey, that's not bad right there. That is not bad right there. I'm actually holding this light in my lap. That's not bad. The lavender there, the mauve on his face is a little bit more mauvey on the original, a little bit more, I don't want to say purple because it's not really purple, but it is it's got a little bit more in that direction than what you're seeing here. Looks a little washed out. But anyway, let's take a look. This Nosferatu, this is all watercolor. And the reason I did this in watercolor was because you get that sort of transparent, translucent feel, and the flesh tone has more depth to it. What we've done with the rest of these, this is acrylic. He's all acrylic. Esther's dress is acrylic, but her flesh tones are watercolor, and her boots are watercolor, and her hair is watercolor. And the background is all acrylic. But when I do flesh tones, I like to get that sort of more, that it's sort of a deeper, again, more sort of, I guess, just translucent is really the right word for it. It gives me the flesh tones in a way that I've been moving this light around. Let me see if. Wow. Maybe right in there. Okay, so really what I did here is I did an underpainting of the whole. This is on watercolor paper. It's pretty heavy. And but it's still, if you can light table, it's still not so thick that you can't light table the image. So I did a pencil drawing of this on a bigger sheet of paper on like 11 by 17, 20-pound copy paper, and then I put it on the light table, put this watercolor board over it, and basically traced it onto the watercolor board so you'd have a cleaner pencil job than if you just drew it on there. Okay, so what I did here was I underpainted this with watercolors of blue. Okay, so that would be my key color. And I wanted Nosferatu to be sort of sickly looking anyway. So I used some Naples yellow in there along with the blue underpainting. You can kind of see right in here, it almost feels like there's a certain amount of veininess in there. Actually, that's not a bad representation of what this looks like. A little too yellow, but not bad. But anyway, so you get that little blue underneath there. And what I did was I used, after I painted on this kind of Naples yellow in there, I went in and started laying the lavender or the mauve in here. And I went in and increased the depth of the creases on his face with a sepia or a burnt, what did I use? It wasn't a burnt umber, no, raw umber, and which is a darker kind of greenish brown, but it comes off darker. And then I used a little bit of red in the cheeks here and a little bit on the nose and on the earlobe there. But usually, mostly what you've got in here is these kind of yellows and mauves, which makes him look kind of sickly, which is kind of what I was going for. Then I went ahead and did this sort of cloak thing. It's really sort of undefined because I didn't want a bunch of detail up in here messing with the image of the wraith, right? Those two had to separate. So the thing with acrylics is they don't really blend. They're not like oil paints because they come down, they go down dry pretty quickly. So what I like to do with them, and I don't know, most people probably don't do this. There's a technique in oil painting called scumbling, and it's when you basically take a paint without any thinner or anything on it, just the raw paint, so you get kind of a dry brush effect, and you kind of rub it onto the board, and it gets it kind of a rough edge to it, and it's gives you a dry brush effect. And that's kind of what I do with these. I'll put the gray in here, and then like this highlight up in here, I'd come in with a much lighter gray, very dry brushy, and just kind of rub it in there to kind of get kind of a blend, but it's a spotty blend, right? So you have to kind of know what you want it to look like. The interesting thing about the black, the reason I went with acrylic black on Wraith was because I wanted it flat. And this lays kind of like house paint. After you lay a couple layers on there, you can get a pretty flat, you're getting reflection off of it right now, but you can get a pretty flat black on the acrylic. And any of the colors, really. If you lay down a couple of coats, it'll go flat like a house paint would in a lot of ways. So it's kind of interesting. And I was originally going to do her dress in watercolor, but I didn't really like the way it looked, so I painted over it with acrylics. And again, you can see there's blue in here, there's some lavender in here, so I'm pulling the lavender from here into here to kind of harmonize it a little bit more. The Naples yellow in his face is also in her hair. Her flesh tone is a burnt sienna, just watered down with some red, and key spots. And that's really pretty much what I use for her flesh tones, is burnt sienna watered down, and then red or some orange, Chinese red, which is kind of an orangish red for her cheek and her nose and the knees and maybe in her calf a little bit there. The gun here is all watercolor, and this gun is all watercolor. This cross is a combination. The highlights I should be truthful here, the highlights on the gun and the metal are white acrylic, or very light gray acrylic. I mixed a little bit of gray in it. The background, I went in and laid down this blue, this heavy blue. And because his face was in watercolor, I couldn't, normally if you're doing an oil painting, you might go in and paint the background first, because you want the foreground characters to feel like they're sitting on top of the background rather than the background encroaching on them. But that's not what I did here, because I couldn't paint. If I painted over him, this is watercolor, so the acrylic would be over the top of the watercolor. Then I would have to go back over the top with acrylic in certain spots to cover up the background that encroached over the top of them. So I had to do a pretty good job of getting the background right up to the edge of where the character was here without messing it up. But anyway, so I did this blue, and this was a combination of acrylic white. I can't remember which blue I used off the top of my head. I think there's a little Payne's gray in there along with the blue. And so I got this kind of, I don't really wouldn't call it aqua, but it's kind of in that direction. But it's a darker blue, but it's got a little bit of a gray in it. It looks a little hotter in this picture. It looks a little more blue than it actually is. And then I went and, like I said, with a darker acrylic, scumbled over the top of this. And then I went back in with a lighter blue again and with a square brush, like an oil painting square brush, and just kind of plopped in to get this texture, and then kind of went back and forth with the darker color and light color until I got this kind of texture blend. And then here I did the same thing with a little bit of white, with just a lot of white with a little bit of that blue in there, and then tried to transition from this blue into this white here. So we have the darker blue, a little bit of lighter blue here, and then eventually it's just white down here at the bottom. So basically I was trying to create some sort of pattern, kind of it's structured, but you want it to look loose and unstructured, right? Um, and that's sort of how I did the background. But I haven't, and you can see on here how you've got, sorry, Esther, how you've got this black, which is acrylic, this gray, which is acrylic, this lighter blue, which is actually a watercolor over the top of that, and this lighter gray here. You really have to sort of lay acrylics side by side because, like I said, they don't really blend. You can do a little bit of scumbling like I did up here on his shoulder. But you can see how rough that is. And you have to sort of be prepared. That's how you want it to look. And that's how I wanted it to look. So it's, but it's hard to get a blend. So you have to kind of lay down colors next to each other to sort of let your eye do the blending, because that's kind of how acrylics work. But I'm not very good at acrylics. I've never really used them a ton regularly. I was just starting to get the hang of them about 15 years ago when I was painting my Strange Creatures or Fantastical Creatures book. Oops, sorry. And like I said, I have not done a tremendous job of keeping up with my skills. And so then you don't do anything for 10 years. And then it's like it's square one. You start over again. And so keeping that in mind, I think it's, relatively successful in that it's not horrible. So that's that. Everybody's going to get that print. And let me jump out of this screen for a second here. See what you guys are up to. It's me again. I got weird lighting. There we go. It'll warm me up a little bit with that orange light. All right. So I've kind of been ignoring the chat here. Let's see what you guys are saying. Ain't it past your bedtime, AA Ron? So the Brohawks, generally it is, but it's a night of celebration. So the heck with it. I'm not going to bed. Old Bad says, I think art like this always looks better in person. There's a reason people visit art galleries, and that's for sure. Jimmy Cricket's giving me $10 confirmed for that. Thank you. Wow. I'll get back to you on that. Mike's not bad, rookie. I'm the oldest rookie in the majors. Let's see here. He had an extra insure to give him a boost of energy. Let's see if this knocks the energy out of you. There you go, Jeff. I'm not above blowing people up on other streams besides the Sunday night stream, so be careful. There's Jay Williams being very nice. Thanks, man. I appreciate that. Big Boy Robo says, hail. Hey, Big Boy Robo. Thanks for joining us. Oh, look at that. JG Martinez is way too nice to me, but I will take it, Aaron. This piece is absolutely perfect. I appreciate it, man. That's very nice of you. How long after Wraith of God ships until this campaign goes? Oh, the Blood Hunters? Immediately. The sign-up page is going to go up as probably, where are we at? May? The 1st of June. The sign-up page is going to go up, and it's just going to stay up until all the Wraith of Gods are shipped. And then once the last one gets shipped out, we're going to go live with the Blood Hunters campaign. And also, as a reminder, the Blood Hunters campaign is going to be potentially another 84-page graphic novel if we hit certain stretch goals. But it's going to have a brand new Garbage Man backup story and a brand new Nightclub backup story in it. So I was originally going to do it just as a straight up anthology with, and then I thought, no, that's for you guys who know what's going on. That's fine. But for new people coming in that maybe just picked up Wraith of God and thought, oh, this is cool. I wonder if there's another one. I didn't want to come out with a ambiguous anthology book called Empire Events, which is what I was going to do, because it doesn't really mean anything. We pushed really hard to kind of create this Wraith of God trademark and logo and this character, and I don't want to just relegate it to diminished status, so it's on even keel with everything else, and put it in an anthology. So we're going to lead with Wraith of God Blood Hunters is what the campaign is going to be called, but it will be basically the same thing. You're still going to get a Garbage Man story. You're still going to get a nightclub story in it as well. And if we hit stretch goals, we'll go with Kit Carter, and then that's when it's going to get up to be about 84 pages again. So, which I think we'll do. But anyway, that's the goal. So I was wondering how you were going to do the blue background in contrast with the blue dress. I think it really turned out great. Thank you so much. Yeah, I definitely had to go darker with it. And I had the idea of breaking it up into the white. And that worked out okay. So I'm glad I went that direction. Anyway, so that's that. This sucker is going to be for sale, but again, I don't know. That's not really a great color representation. Let me show you. Well, I sent out an update. Everybody's back the campaign basically saw what the print looks like. But in case you haven't backed the campaign, for shame, let's take a look at what that, if I can find it, what the print looks like. Because I stuck a logo on there and did some trim around it. And now these are not going to be signed. Okay, the other print that you could buy part of the campaign is signed and numbered, limited edition to 400 copies. There's going to be 2,000 copies of this. Everybody's going to get one for free. The other one you'd have to pay for, though. And that's done more, I was going to say traditionally, but it isn't done. This was done. The painting was traditional. The Photoshop stuff, I guess, would be considered, a more modern technique, but it's actually become the standard for the industry. I'm sorry. What am I looking for here? There it is. There it is. There she is. All right. So let me open this up and then allow me to share it with you guys. Boom. There it is. So there you go. Can I make it bigger? That's the question. Maybe that's too big. All right, there we go. So you get your, so the logo goes in there, right? Coming soon. And of course, all my copyright information down at the bottom. But that's what your print will look like. And you all get it for free. Isn't that just wonderful? I just like the kindness out of my heart. It's amazing, really. So anyway, there it is again. So this again says, it's 10 by 7. It's going to fit in it'd be the same size as a comic book. So these are not giant prints or anything like that. And these won't be signed. They'll just be like we would call a trade edition. And then, but they're still pretty cool, especially for free, right? You can't go wrong going for free. So anyway, there's that. Now I do have something else here. Well, we looked at this before, but hey, there's Phil. Phil is keeping an eye on me. He needs a pinup from me, and I need to get on that very soon. Don't worry, Phil. I'll get it done. Why not separate the campaigns? I'll tell you why, because I don't have any confidence that they'll do well. I think Kit Carter would probably do well, but considering how well Wraith of God has done, there's no reason to believe that a second issue won't do well as well. And when you use Wraith of God, which is already now established, to draw in readership, and then you include the backup stories in there, that's exposing those characters again, to a broader audience, and hopefully allowing them to grow in popularity, that I can maybe launch a Garbage Man project on its own, or I can launch a nightclub, or I can launch Kit Carter. So to me, it's a safer way to get that stuff out there without risking a massive failure. But also, because I'm doing all this stuff myself, I'm not going to hire other people to do it, at least certainly not at this stage. So it's, for me to say, okay, I can do 4 different stories. Now, like this Wraith of God, the graphic novel you'll all be getting that you ordered, those of you that ordered, it's 84 pages, right? It's a 79-page story. Then, of course, there's some extra stuff in there. Pardon me, it's an 80-page story when you count Dale's epilogue page. So it's an 80-page story, single story. The next thing, the Wraith of God story, won't be that long because there'll be room within that 84 pages for these other stories. Now, the Wraith of God will be longer than the other stories, but all these things will be self-contained to kind of give everybody a taste of the Lopresti-verse. And it's my way of getting that stuff out there and expanding it a little bit without taking a huge risk and saying, okay, I'm going to launch this, I'm going to launch this, I'm going to launch this, and see what happens. Because then again, I got to draw all this stuff too. So it has to be done in a format that I can produce the material in a timely fashion, the high quality that you guys are going to be expecting to get. And I think that's the best way for me to do it. Time will tell. Randy Howell up in Canada says, I was just about to head off to bed. Thanks for the beanie and the shot glass. Thank you, Randy, for ordering. I appreciate it. I'm glad they got there safely for sure. Look at that Nosferatu there. The bald head is a symbol of virility and power. Not many people know, but it's true. So you're saying that I'm a symbol of power and virility? Yeah, baby. I like it. Wraith of God team-up comic sounds like a lot of fun. Well, the thing is, it's kind of hard to explain. This will become much clearer to you guys once you read the Wraith of God and the 3-page epilogue that is in there. And you'll understand more clearly how all this stuff begins to fit together and why I've set it up so that just reading one of these characters isn't going to give you the full story. So I've got to figure out a way to get you guys more of the characters, more of the stories, so you can get the bigger picture of what I'm planning with the Lopresti-verse. So this is what we call professionalism. I'm not dunking on anybody, but that's part of it, right? If we don't deliver the product, then what's the point? You guys are not going to continue to back the product if you're not getting the product. So, Jeff's feeling frisky tonight. There's some. Jan Chance will have his own book, or introduce him in some other way. Eon Chance is not a character that would have his own book, but we will be seeing him. Let's just put it that way. So let's switch over to this real quickly here, if I may. And I guess I may because gosh darn it, it's my show. Okay. So what do we got here? This is an old painting. I showed this one before, but this is another, this is from a children's book project that never got finished, but this is the pizza troll, and he's basically made of cheese. That's why his skin is all lumpy and gross. And it's funny, after I designed him, I thought it might be too disgusting for a children's book, but what the heck. Anyway, so he has this pizza here. Now this is all watercolor. Okay, so I went in here with the yellow as the base, right? And then I went in here with, that looks like that's probably a combination of burnt sienna and raw sienna, and to make the shadows. And this is all watercolor. Okay, and you can see how it's kind of, see that spottiness? So I was basically going with a brush and texturing. Okay. Now some of the highlights here, I went in with some acrylic here after the fact. But if you look at these pants, the pants are acrylic. Okay, and you can tell by how they have that sort of thicker, sort of oil painty look to the folds in here. And now this color is, again, I had to sort of scumble in the shadowed area with the darker color. And this is all acrylic too. But with the exception of some highlights in there, you can see that yellow. There's some heavy yellow spots in there that are acrylic. But this is all watercolor in here because I felt it was easier to capture the feel of what I wanted the character to look like. This tree is also acrylic. Okay, you can see how the paint lays differently. And then, of course, you see this is really thick acrylic using a square-tipped brush to go in and create that effect down there. So that's what I've sort of developed into doing, is kind of combining watercolor and acrylic, which is kind of nuts, really. And maybe I'll go back one way or the other at some point and go all watercolor or all acrylic. And these I outlined with a colored pencil, which I didn't do with that Wraith of God. I used watercolor to kind of darken in some lines. With this, I went over with a colored pencil, which I thought was actually pretty effective to kind of give it a, since there's no background color here, they're just little vignettes. So I did go in with this brown pencil to give the pencil line there to get a little separation from the white background, give it a little bit of a hard edge. And that's kind of, as comic book artists, we get so used to having a solid line that even when we're painting, and you really shouldn't be doing that, but your colors against each other that create those lines. But you get so used to seeing it that way, it doesn't look right if you don't do it. So I want to show this too. I don't know if I've shown this before. Now, this is an oil painting. And you can see this is what I didn't do with the Wraith of God. See, on the oil painting, since this is all going to be oils, right? And it's all opaque. Okay. So I went in and did the water for this. What the heck is this? I want to say a plesiosaur, but it's not. It's a mosasaur. And so I got this kind of really nice sort of, and oil paints blend a lot nicer than acrylics do. So you can get these kind of cool effects, right? But I don't want it so smooth that you lose the painterly effect of it, because I like paintings that feel like paintings. If you're doing everything to look like a photograph, you might as well just take a photograph. So you want some sort of, or I do anyway, like some painterly sort of approach to it. But anyway, so I finished the background, painted over this thing, and I did this maybe 20 years ago, and I still want to finish it. But what I did was I painted in this in acrylics, okay, just so I knew where, basically where the pattern on this dinosaur was. And then I painted over it with oil paints. And so the background encroaches over the top of this main image. And then I will go in with oil paints and paint over the top of this, using this as a guide. And then you'll get that feeling that the figure here, this dinosaur, is laying on the background rather than the background encroaching on him. And even though it's underwater, you may want the feeling of the the background and, overlapping them a little bit. But that would be something I would add later, like, some more misty, murky water if I wanted to do that, which I'm not going to. I want this to be sharp. But anyway, so that's how I approach an oil painting a little bit differently than I would of these acrylic paintings. But I wanted to show you that. So someday I'm going to get that finished, and hopefully someday sooner than later. Loch Ness. Indeed. Have I used gouache? I use gouache all the time. Not as the main source of paint, but if I want, the thing about gouache is opaque watercolor, but it doesn't dry like acrylic permanently. So if you wet it, if you get that spot wet again, it'll bleed or run. But it's a great to go in with if you don't want to use acrylics, but you're using watercolors. I will use gouache to mix in with a watercolor to make it more opaque if I'm laying down highlights or something like that, or maybe just doing some spot corrections that I can't use the watercolor for because it's too transparent and I want to cover something up. But I've never painted entirely with gouaches. I use them in that way. I use them like acrylics that don't dry, basically, or don't become permanent. James Dietrich says, from a tech standpoint, a painting can address a higher dynamic range than the eye by incorporating two different light levels, like, say, some bright highlights where the sun comes into the dark sea. You're absolutely right. That, in film or TV, you would call something like that a kicker light, where you have your main light source coming in one side and a kicker light. Star Trek did that all the time with, like funky, like a purple color or a green light or something that would just rim light the other side of the character's face or something like that. And so you go in there with dual light sources. You can get a much rounder, more three-dimensional effect depending on what you're going for. That is very true. Let's see here. Yeah, that's actually very astute of you, old man. Chances of me doing a thing painting are slim to none, though. Okay, Randy Hall keeps threatening to go to bed, but he hasn't done it yet. Pizza looks good enough to eat, and I was just like, I could go for some pizza right now. Yeah. Glorp the fromage troll. Omelette du fromage. That was a Dexter's Lab episode. Cheese omelet. I think so. I mean, that's the one thing you can do is you can mix up your textures real easily by using different mediums on the same painting. I started using acrylics because I was doing this monster book that GJ Martinez knows well because he actually ordered one from me. And I had, most of them were watercolor paintings, but when I had like big, large areas, it's hard to get the watercolor to lay evenly. And so you really have to do like shapes, splotch areas, and just do overlays and overlays and overlays to kind of create the effect you want. But I was getting very frustrated with what I was doing on this one character. And so I said, screw this, I'm gonna go with acrylic. And I'd never used acrylic before until I used that. But I knew that I could cover up the whole thing with the acrylic, and it actually worked really, really well. And so that's when I started mixing acrylics with watercolors. The stuff that smaller areas, flesh tones, things like that, I would use watercolors for. And then for the larger areas, I would go in and use acrylic. And so it's an interesting, weird thing of mine. I've got a better handle on both mediums right now. So I don't know that I necessarily need to do that anymore, but I got into kind of a habit of doing it. And so I'm still doing it. The new mascot for Tino's Pizza, the sketch is Eat Me. Yes, exactly. That's exactly true, James. That is exactly true. You know, it's funny. Some of these characters, you never know. You never know what might show up, um, especially in the nightclub, because they're like the superhero team, but they're basically made of mutants and weird creatures and stuff. Not mutants in the sense that X-Men are mutants, but like mutated people from, exposure to chemicals or whatever. Because the whole place where they live, and those of you who've read the Garbage Man trade paperback would know this. Those of you who haven't yet will find out that Garbage Man takes place in a place called Murnau City, based on I named it after F.W. Murnau, the German Impressionist director who gave us, of course, Nosferatu and other films. It's a real Gotham-y, dirty kind of city that's just like a lot of industrial stuff going on, and a lot of there's big, pharmaceutical companies in there and all this stuff. So there's a lot of opportunity for chemical waste and, people being mutated against their will. So anyway, that's so any sort of weird, strange pizza mutant could easily show up in the nightclub. John Smith, good friend from the San Diego sort of area. I won't dox him and tell you exactly where he's at, but sort of in the Southern California, southern-er than LA area. If I'd ever read the X-Men, I know who the Morlocks are, but I don't know what they are. So if you say so, Green Laser, I'll take your word for it. Oh, look at. And what a great book it is. I'm taking my time in seeing everything you have done in this book. Fantastical Creatures Field Guide. I recommend it, folks. If you don't have it, I think you can still find it on Amazon secondhand. And I don't know. I may have a couple copies left somewhere around here. And Vic's like, whoa, hold the phone. I don't want to know how these guys get, especially in what kind of nightclub did you say? Vic, you come in with the most random stuff. Have you seen how Shania Twain looks at 54? Holy smokes. Shania Twain was good looking when she was younger, and I'll take your word for it, she's aged well, because I have not seen her recently, but now I'm going to have to go look. Will there be a making of book for Wraith 2? Yes. If you mean, I'm doing a Ruff's ash can that has not all the pages, but most of the pages from the book, most of the roughs, the layouts I did are in this book. So you can kind of, those of you who order that, you'll be able to look at the book, and then you'll be able to go find the corresponding page and kind of say, okay, this is what the layout looked like. This is how it went from, this is how it was initially conceived, and this is what it ended up looking like. And yes, I'll be doing another one of those for Wraith 2. It only makes sense because I'm doing them anyway, so I might as well use them and put them in a book so that those of you who are interested in that kind of thing can get the book and take a look at it and see what the process is. Paulina Porces, was she that model that was married to Rick Ocasek from the Cars, or was that somebody else? I think it was. And I haven't seen her in ages either. Rick passed away recently. It's unfortunate. First Watch Studios is here. Hey, Aaron. Hey. Okay, so the other thing that I'm doing tonight is I've got a commission to do, and I need to get cracking on it. Excuse me. I got this commission to get done for this guy, and I've also got a pinup to do for Mr. Diaz. So anyway, yes, we're getting verification that she was in fact married to Rick Ocasek. Talk about marrying up. Yeah, well, you don't have to be good looking if you're a rock star. That that is a secondary concern. When you're famous, you got bucks and you're a rock star. That's all you need, baby. So I guess there is some value in spending your life working on your guitar skills. Okay. So anyway, I had to come up with this Catwoman design, and I'm thinking, my initial reaction is always to do something like this, right? Is to wait a minute here. I've got this. Why doesn't this tighten up? Anybody getting sick yet from the roller coaster ride? Okay, that's good enough. My initial reaction is the guy wants Catwoman with the cat, and my initial reaction is always to do something like this because I figure, well, the person wants a commission. They probably want a full figure of Catwoman. So I'll do, being all curvy and hippie, and because that's probably what they want. But as a result, sometimes I don't always do the most creative designs for, like Adam Hughes does some pretty creative, boy, she's got thunder thighs, doesn't she? He does some pretty creative designs on his commissions, and I tend to be more presentational because I never really know what people want, and I guess just give them what I want to give them, right, and hope they like it. But so, I mean, oftentimes if I'm doing a female figure, it'll be something in this vein, right? So we get the full figure, you get full front view of the character. We'll put a cat up here on her shoulder. Right? Something like this, maybe. And maybe she's got a hand up here like this, touching the kitty's face. That's sweet. So we do something like that. And then you could have her hand on her hip, or maybe you have her arm down like this, where she's holding her kitty whip or something, whatever she's got. I don't know. Don't really pay attention to this stuff. I didn't even pay attention to this stuff when I was working there, let alone now. I don't even pay attention to it at all. But anyway, you could do something like this, and you're like, okay, that's totally fine. Except for those mega thunder thighs. Here we go. It seems kind of predictable, though, right? So, maybe do this, and maybe put a bat signal behind her to kind of tie her into Batman. And there you go. There's your commission piece, right? But, that's not the most clever design. So I thought, well, what if we did this? What if we had Catwoman? Right, maybe okay, let's say the cat maybe is up here. this, maybe. Right, and she's putting her hand out, and I don't know, what are we going to do with the other shoulder here? I don't know, maybe we go with this hand like this, and maybe this one, something like this. I don't know. And I thought, well, what if you could do something like that? Boy, that's way off. But anyway, it would be like that. This cat's like a baby lion. You do something like that, maybe. Yeah, I don't know. Or we could do a rooftop scene. Maybe with Catwoman. We have her sitting like this on a with her cat. And you can have a little bit of some buildings behind here. We get an indication of some bricks here. You could do something like that. And of course, formatted on a page like this. So you'd have a little bit more sky up here. Maybe you got a moon, whatever. And we can get some a little of that moon, that kicker light here on the side, and the rest of this. That's a possibility. Actually, I kind of like that. That might be kind of fun. I don't mind that. Yeah, well, that's right. I would have created Lone Wolf and Cub. There's a little pep talk from comics legend. Be loose and rough and don't be afraid to erase and explore ideas. Isn't that the truth? It's not so much what, James, the fallback is always you're going to do, your first indication is going to be whatever's easiest, right? And how many times have I done convention sketches, right? And there's certain poses you can, just kind of crank out like that. But I also like to think that, I want to do something that, is maybe a little more interesting. And it depends on my mood. It depends on how much time I have. It depends on if the person's specifically asking for something. I mean, a lot of guys will come to cons with like pre-laid out poses, right? And then they'll just fill in the character around the pose. because it really is sort of difficult to do this stuff on your lap at a show while you're talking to people. So a lot of times the easier the better. Now this is going to be an 11 by 17 full color piece. So these are ones I work on at home. So usually I have a little bit more thought goes into the layout and creativity than it's something I would just, do at a show in an hour or less. So that's why I'm kind of doing layouts like this. I would not do this at a show. I would just kind of go with the first thing that come into my mind and go with it. But I have been known to toss sketches away at shows though, because I thought they sucked. So Vic is a very good point. Over here in the United States, it's really just American tradition comics recognition. And it's true. And people, you get known for working on, Marvel or DC characters. That's how you get a reputation. There's very rarely there are occasions, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, of course, Ben Edlund's The Tick, things like that. But they're so rare that you create your own character and get any real sort of recognition from it. Although I think the opportunity is there right now that hasn't been there in maybe ever like it is now. So we all have sort of this opportunity to do that because Marvel and DC, let's face it, the mishandling of their majority of their characters and their line of books has really opened the door for creative independent people to come in and do some stuff and actually have people pay attention to it because they're not all addicted to, Marvel or DC only anymore like they used to be. And it was even hard for Marvel and DC to introduce new characters because people just wanted the standards, right? And also for any character to catch on, you have to be able to make it stick around for a while. And Marvel and DC wouldn't do that because if the sales weren't there, they couldn't justify keeping a book afloat. Like Damage, for example, a book I worked on at DC was kind of a Hulk book. It was actually a really good book. And it was a lot of fun, but the sales weren't there, and so they abandoned it. Now, maybe the sales never would have been there, but if you could have kept it around for 3 or 4 years, it's possible that, just through continued exposure, that these characters would catch on. Because that's really what it takes. There's a lot of lame characters that are very popular just because they've been around for so long. And so there's some real value into being able to keep your character out in the cultural landscape so that people can begin to identify with that character, and then it becomes something more than just a fly-by-night character. It becomes part of the landscape and pop culture landscape, and then you've got something. But it's hard to do because we all have to sort of survive through the periods where this thing ain't selling, nobody's buying it, no one knows about it, and but crowdfunding's made it a little bit easier to do that. But still, it's hard to keep a property out there if, not a lot of people are buying it. You guys would be amazed at how much money out of the money we raise on these campaigns ends up going right back out the door for production costs. I was actually surprised myself. So it takes actually a pretty good financial number to make even these crowdfunding books viable. If you're doing it full time. I mean, if you're doing it in your spare time, then that's another story. But it's also harder to get the stuff out in a timely fashion if you're not doing it as a full-time job. I did quite a bit of that when I was younger, but I'm telling you right now, I don't have the desire or the energy to work a full-time job and then draw comic books all night. So my projects have to succeed or they're not going to exist. Okay, so we could do something like that. And again, maybe she's sitting on, the ledge of a roof or something with her cat. Maybe this foot could come out like this. I don't think she has heels, does she? She has sort of like these mountain climbing boot type things. Anyway, so you do something like that. Put full moon out there. I thought a couple buildings back here. That's not bad either. So like this one. I mean, that's still not a bad one right there. Get the cat on her shoulder. It's full figure. These might be a little bit more fun, though. I don't know. Oh, you know what? What if this was the bat signal up here, right? So you've got the bat signal going like this, and then maybe she's kind of looking off to the side here. At the bat signal. That might be kind of fun. I'm falling in love with this one right here. And this might be the way to go. We got all the elements. Got what's the cat. We put that in there. Give us a little. Whoo, excuse me. Little bat signal. City back here. Got a nice little environment. It's nice. I like that. Could actually do some. There's one thing Michael Golden told me. It's kind of overstating the obvious, I suppose, but a lot of times you don't think about this stuff. Is that when you're at night and you're up on top of a building, the only light source is coming from the city lights below you. So everybody's going to be lit, underlit. Of course, she's wearing all black, so it's not like that's going to make a huge difference, but she's got little boots on there. I'm kind of digging that. I think that may be our winner tonight. I wonder if maybe if I bring that knee up like that, just to give a little variation. Yeah, that's nicer. That goes something like that. I kind of like that. I think I've convinced myself. Loot bag. There's an idea, right? She just ripped somebody off, right? So, yeah, where are we going to put it, though? Right over here, maybe. $sign on it, right? Make it obvious. That's nice. Yeah, she just ripped off something. They're calling the Batman. She's already in the clear. I like it. Good idea, James. Good idea. So we go, something like that. Maybe, yeah, maybe her hand is out here resting on the loot bag. Make that loot bag even bigger. Have her hand on there. Get rid of that. Ooh. Taking it. Taking it. It's dynamite, baby. Dynamite. Paul Logg's right on the money. Winner, winner, catnip dinner. Oh, but this is, yeah, I mean, so you can, like I said, these are 11 by 17. They're full color. They get limited background, and they're $3.75 a piece plus shipping. So it's like I want to put a little bit of time into it, so I'm not just hacking out something. You know, when you're at a show, you don't have the time to do this, obviously, because you got a list of sketches and everybody's wants their sketch. Depends, honestly, it depends on how long the show is. I'm doing a show this weekend. It's only a day long, so I'm not going to be doing anything like this. I'll be doing probably head and bust shots. And that's about it, because that's all I really have time to do. Looks like Shelly Showtime is in the house. She wandered in.
Hi, guys. Hi, everyone.
Did I wake you
I
up?
wanted to say hi. No, I couldn't hear you. I just woke up. And thought I'd check in. Let's see who's here.
Oh.
Don't change cameras, please.
No,
Hi, John. Old man. Well, and old man. But John's also an old man, so very cool.
Well, James, I'm not a hack all the time. Just sometimes. Just sometimes.
Oh, Shelly's here. Jiminy! Oh, thanks.
Oh, yeah, that's really sweet.
Oh.
Glad I was able to place hold for you, Shelly, till you could come in and say hi to everybody.
I'm so glad you did my warm-up act.
Yeah, that's right.
Nice.
I got the crowd warmed up for you, so you can just come in and, you know.
Awesome.
Knock them dead. Oh, my goodness. Well, gang, that's really all I've got. Because now it is past my bedtime. It's almost 11 o'clock. That would make
Holy cow.
it, what?
A million.
Is it like 2 a.m. on the East Coast?
Chapter 3, Chapter 1.
That's outrage, man.
Dedicated peeps band.
Yeah, so tomorrow I'm going to sign some books. Some more books.
Books and books.
Books and books and books and books. There are so many boxes of books downstairs. I can't even freaking tell you. 500 and nearly 600 Garbage Man trades. 375, 76 hardcover sketchbooks, all had to be signed and numbered. 90 some copies of Power Cubed signed. And I still don't have, I've got another print down there that needs to be signed and numbered, the Wraith God print. And then I've got the Ashcan, Ruff's Ashcan, which isn't back from the printers yet, but should be soon. Oh my goodness. The amount of signing I have to do is crazy. It's crazy, I tell you. So anyway, there's some evening art for you. How about that to go to bed by? Anyway, I'll show you guys when I get that when they get the Catwoman done. It's for a guy's wife's birthday present, so I may not show it till after he gets it and gives it to her, so that don't potentially ruin any surprise by posting it all over social media. But I'll definitely repost it when I can. The Catwoman piece, I mean. And you can say you were here when it formed for the first time. Anyway, I'm trying to think if there's anything else I need. I did send out updates to everybody. So that is back the campaign. So you should be up to date on everything. I will put this out there real quick before I forget, because we do need a public service announcement. So yeah, like and subscribe to my channel. We're almost up to 1,800 subscribers. I'd love to get to 2,000 before I die of old age, just to say I did it. But yeah, so if you're not a regular here and you don't normally subscribe, or you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do that and hit the like button. I do have a regular show with Shelly every Sunday evening around 5-ish. And then I live stream like this, what I call last second live streams, whenever I get the urge to come on and maybe do some sketching or something, which we did here tonight, or if I've got something, campaign wise to share. But like I said, most of that stuff is almost completely done. So it's just a matter of it all coming back from the printer and then getting it all packaged up and sent out to you guys. The campaign is going to remain open for probably, I was going to close it. The reason being is because people keep ordering the books, which is what you want to do, right? But once you've already put the order in for the books, it's like, oh my gosh, I don't want to run out. And I mean, I did over order, so it's not like I just ordered the exact number, but you just never know. And so, in fact, I had to go back to press on the sticker sets because I had to order those at the end of the year last year for tax purposes before I knew actually how many final backers I would have. And we've already passed or right up knocking on the door of the total number of sticker sets that everybody gets for free. So I had to go back and order another 100 sets of these 7 stickers so that I would be able to accommodate the extra orders. So those are the kind of things that you sort of are juggling all the time. But anyway, I'm going to keep, everybody says, keep it open until the book actually ships, because once people get their copies and start showing them online, other people are going to go, dang, I should have got that. And so you leave it open for them to get it. But it won't be more than a week after the books start shipping out, because like I said, I want to get the other the next campaign ready to launch. So, and I'm not going to be running 2 campaigns at the same time. So anyway, let me leave you with this in case you missed the Sunday show.
Oh, son of a gun. You thought I was going to say son of a bitch, didn't you?
I'm going to play that forever because I think that is so funny. And see, that's what I keep hearing. Don't close the campaign because people will want. I'll still have books available, but they're going to be sold through my website, just not through the campaign. But I will leave it open for a little bit yet. Okay. Anyway, so there you got it, folks. I'm heading out the door, and I'm not really. I'm going to bed. But thank you for joining me tonight. It was it's fun to get back into the groove and do some of these last second live streams. I will be doing more of them as I start getting into getting back on my commission list. And I've got a pretty long one. People have been waiting for me to get done with Wraith of God, so I get on the commission. So I'm starting to do that again. So looking forward to that. And so anyway, say goodnight, Gracie. Good night, Gracie. Okay, guys, thanks. See you next time. Appreciate it. Have a good evening and a good day tomorrow.